Welcome back. And I've got another guest who's also been on with me once before. I have with me Susan Pintel, and she is the owner of Pintel Family Law. Welcome back to the show. First, we have to do this, okay? Tell us a little bit about yourself, and especially when it comes to family law, we want to know a little bit about you as an attorney and all of that.
Absolutely. So I've been practicing family law for 17 years. I've only ever practiced family law. From time to time, I jump into juvenile law just because some of my clients get to the point where factors lead them into, being able to sever the other parent's rights. But really what makes me different is I'm a solo practitioner, so I handle the case from start to finish, and that really enables me to look at what I need to in order to make the best case possible for you. I really enjoy working with the clients that give me the documents that I need in order to present their case, because sometimes I get referrals from other attorneys who just honestly they don't have as much time to do a little bit more hand-holding. And so I find that I get to do like the practice of law and be compassionate and hold people's hands and still focus on the legal factors. So,
and there's nothing like having somebody that is a boutique, you want to call it a boutique firm, that is going to hold your hand, because when it comes to this, it is not easy.
No, not at all. And I just want to say that I also get a lot of referrals from former clients who tell me, I hired this other firm initially, and I was listening to the prior presenter, and you only get 30 seconds, right? And so I really do want to give during that initial consultation with a client in person when they've hired me, let's talk for an hour about what's important to you, and then what I can tell you in terms of what's the legal perspective, what's really going to happen in your case, because I get a lot of attorneys who just want to tell the clients what they want to hear, and ultimately that's not the right approach. So I'm going to just be very brutally honest with you and tell you what I think is going to happen, right? Of course, I don't have a magic crystal ball, I can't guarantee results, but at least I have enough experience in front of the judges where I know that if you're a mom who wants sole legal decision making just because you don't want to share decision making with dad, that's not the standard, you're not going to get it, let's move on.
Got to ask this other question really quickly, and that is, why an attorney? Why should I have to get an attorney when, number one, I could get all this information on Google, but also maybe I have somebody who's a document preparer or something like that?
Yeah, no, it's funny that you asked that. I just had a consultation with a potential client, and she said, hey, I'm going to give you all of this stuff that I put into ChatGPT.
Oh, there you go, Chat now is going to be your attorney.
Yeah, and so I started reading that, and I'm not going to lie to you, I mean, it has some accurate factual information, but it's not relevant to your case. And so I think that's where attorneys are not going to be replaced by artificial intelligence just yet, or anytime soon, hopefully, because it's factual. Yes, Tylenol is, it's a medication, but it doesn't tell you how that plays into the argument that some people want to make about why I shouldn't give, the ability of my soon-to-be ex-spouse to give a certain, medication to my child. Well, that's not for the judge to decide, and artificial intelligence is telling you what it is. Judges will depend on medical experts.
I'm going to say this too, because we're going to talk about something very near and dear to me, which is spousal maintenance. Okay, very near and dear to me. But I have to say too, and I'm listening to you and I'm hearing that probably things are way different than when I got a divorce. You're talking about medication of whether you can give it to your child or not. Now, I know that when I got a divorce that never came up, but I guarantee you it's coming up now. So things are different, and that's why you got to make sure you've got somebody on your side.
I think it's important to kind of look at the history of things, because I've been doing this for 17 years. I'm just going to briefly tell you, when I started, we did not have a spousal maintenance calculator. We did not have spousal maintenance guidelines. We had a statute, which I will talk about. And so what happened, Carol, was clients would spend a lot of money and time arguing over spousal maintenance. So opposing counsel would come to me and say, hey, I saw your client's pay stubs. The gross amount is $20,000 per month, and my client's entitled to 50% of that, which is $10,000. I don't know about you. I don't eat off of gross per month. I bring home net, and that's what I got to base things off of. So as time wore on, clients were complaining, attorneys were complaining. We have really great subcommittees. They went to the legislature. The legislature said, okay, let's put a calculator in place. And we got that in 2022, starting in September. And I just want to say that it did a lot of great stuff in terms of this. These are some really great guidelines. And we have a calculator. You put in income, you put in certain factors, and it's going to kick out a low point, a midpoint, and a high point in terms of amount of spousal maintenance, and it's also going to give you duration in terms of how many months you're likely to get. But the drawback there was that now attorneys and judges initially, because change is confusing, they just skipped over the statutory factors, and they're like, oh, we're just gonna look at the calculator, right? So if it says midpoint is $2,000 and I can give you up to like 3 years, okay, I'll just do that. And they didn't really, and I'm talking about judges and attorneys, okay, we just skipped over the factors. And I'm gonna talk about the difference between basically eligibility for spousal maintenance and entitlement.
I wanna look at that calculator when they come up with something like that. I wanna check it out to think it's wrong.
Yeah,
So
so,
let me see that thing, you know?
yeah, no, and the beautiful thing is that, you know, you can, Maricopa County Superior Court has a beautiful website voted like, you know, top of the nation, and they really do allow you to kind of enter in the factors and get some worksheets.
That's cool.
And I, you know, people, going back to like, do you need an attorney? You know, I don't ever want to strong arm somebody to say, yeah, you have to hire an attorney, but I've learned that people get emotional and they can't be articulate and they can't be concise. And so a lot of the hearings are, you know, you get only 20 minutes to present your case. And if you're gonna wander around and kind of get lost and like, he did this to me and he's cheating on me, you really lose sight of what's important. And the judges don't guide you because they cannot give you legal advice. So an attorney is there to just put the facts that you need in order for the judge to make their decision. So, you know, I will just tell you one more thing, which is really important. I'm gonna talk about the guidelines in terms of what is effective September 1st, and we'll get into why that's important for people to understand.
Okay, so here's what I wanted to break it down a little bit with you, okay? First of all, I want to give out your information because anybody listening, if it's you or someone that you know, let's let you do what you call is a free 30-minute phone consultation. And right now today, what we're going to do is we're going to open up the lines of the audience. Somebody may need this, a free virtual consultation. So our number here is 602-277-5369, and toll free it's 1-866-536-1100. Check her out. It's Pintel, PINTEL Law .com. So there's 2 L's. So, and then also her phone number is 480-397-2261. You can also text her at 520-355-4483. Okay, let's get down into it because you wanted to look a little bit about the spousal maintenance in Arizona, and let's talk about it now.
Yeah, so you need to understand, we have a calculator, yes, but you also need to look at the statutory factors. And so the statute is 25-319A, not that you need to know that, but you need to understand that you have 5 scenarios under which you can be eligible to receive spousal maintenance, okay? So the first one is you're gonna look at whether you have enough property, and that also includes your separate property, okay? And that apportioned to you during the divorce, and the question is that going to meet your reasonable needs, right? So if, as we all understand, you've built up this great life and, you know, your spouse has been the primary breadwinner, okay? And now you're getting a divorce, are you going to be able to maintain that standard of living? And so that's really what we're interested in doing in the judicial system. Are we sure that you have enough property walking away from the divorce? And if you do, and there are cases where the judges will say, absolutely, you know, you're not going to be eligible, so the analysis stops. But I found that in 90% of the cases, I'll cover all 5, but this is a really big one because you've divided everything that you've acquired during your marriage. So only having half of it moving forward, most judges will say, you know what, you probably don't have enough property, so we're probably going to make you eligible for spousal maintenance.
Nice, because you know what, most people need it.
Yeah.
I mean, they really do.
Yeah, they do.
So the factors, what are the factors?
So you have, again, the court's going to look at whether or not you have enough property that's apportioned to you to meet your reasonable needs. They're going to look to see if you have proper earning capacity in the labor market to be self-sufficient. They're going to look to see if you are a parent of a child who essentially is of an age or has a condition that really doesn't make it reasonable for you to look for out-of-home work, okay? They're also going to look to see if during the course of your marriage, did you make a lot of contributions to your spouse's career, finances?
Yes.
Or yes, and I get a lot of that. And the flip side is like, have you decreased your own earning capacity during the marriage to, again, you know, bolster your spouse's income? And then the last one really is, did you have a marriage of long duration? And that's why I also want to focus about how this calculator has helped us define what it means to have a marriage of long duration.
So the calculator is a friend.
It can be, absolutely, if you use it appropriately, because again, you want to take into account that most people on their own will say, well, my spouse has like rental properties, or my spouse has this inheritance. And that's all well and good, but that's not gonna be counted as income, right? Your sole and separate property is not really gonna be counted as income. It's what the salary and the dividends from, you know what, I'm gonna take it a step at a time. I'm just gonna say that's not what really goes into the calculator, your separate property. But you're looking at what you've acquired during the marriage.
So, yeah, I mean, listen, we all know that a lot of people, when they are getting divorced, it's a little bit sticky, especially when it comes to the spousal maintenance, the child support and all of that, right?
I'm just gonna be honest, you know, I have both men and women as clients. Most men will tell me right off the bat, you know, because I ask, what are your goals, what's important to you? And they're just like, I don't wanna pay spousal maintenance.
Of course.
And I say, okay, well, we're gonna have to revisit that.
Yeah, what we're gonna do is we're gonna revisit this when we come back from a break. But you know what? There's a lot of guys out there too that want to make sure that their wife, even though they're getting divorced, is taken care of,
Yes.
especially for the children. Her phone number is 480-397-2261. It's Pintel, PINTEL law.com. Hang tight, we'll be back in just a minute. Am I doing okay?
You're doing great.
Are you okay?
I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Happy?
Happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Love what you're doing.
We're gonna walk the other step, you know, and then we'll walk in some other stuff. Yeah.
Okay. And, you know, you could do what you're doing right here. Over.
And over and over. Yeah.
I like it. I almost want to even break it down further.
Yeah.
Like, cut it so that you can be more relaxed because you're trying to get it
Yeah, a
all
lot of
in again.
information, yeah.
And I'll help you on that.
Okay.
But what I really think is that this is something that people would really need to hear, right?
Yeah, no, it's confusing, you know,
It is.
people do this on their own all the time, and I don't pressure people to hire an attorney, because that's like, you know, I don't
No,
like
but
that
I say
approach.
that because there's a
But-
lot of people that.
Oh, gosh, no, but that's what I was gonna
Or
say,
you hope
because.
you're okay with what I did in the
Oh,
beginning.
no, absolutely, because it's,
It's okay with me.
because artificial intelligence, I mean, more and more clients are coming to me like, hey, I already got this, and I'm like, hey, you know, that's great, and I can use some of it, but some of it is not applied correctly.
Right, that's important.
That's, you know, that's where it's great, but you really don't know, just like with everything in life, it's like, I wouldn't give somebody advice in Pima County, right?
Mhm.
I mean, it's statewide, but I always ask, can you find an attorney in Pima County, because they've been in front of those judges before, right? And they kind of have a feel for what's going on. So that's what artificial intelligence is missing, because you also have to gauge where your judge is going
Mhm.
with it. And nobody in the land of artificial intelligence is going to be able to gauge your credibility, because you put in what you want to put in.
Oh my
right?
God, I totally
You know?
agree,
And that's-
100%.
And that's where they don't give you that feedback necessarily, and it was eye-opening. I mean, it was a lot of like, wow.
Though there's other things that you can also bring up that is interesting too, because now grandparents are taking over, and
Yeah.
I wonder how you handle, how do they
Yeah.
handle that? You know, there's a
Yeah.
lot of things to go and talk about.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
Oh, yeah.
I can go forever.
Oh, yeah, no, and.
But that's what you can do
Yeah.
even with this, what you've done, and even bring it, because you
Bring it
can
down,
see
yeah.
that you
It's
can,
a-
because it's a
lot.
conversation, and it is.
It's a lot, yeah. But I can definitely, if we have like, what, 4 minutes, 6 minutes? 10 minutes?
Right now?
Yeah, no, to get to the end of the show, because I just want people to really understand, because marriage of long duration.
Well, we're actually right here.
Is, oh, good, okay,
So we're
great.
really, you know,
Oh,
and we're gonna,
yeah.
I'm gonna start doing that.
Oh, lovely, okay, yeah,
So I think we're in,
that's really, that's where like a
That's-
lot of people
yeah.
get, you know, hung up on, confused, and it's like, wait, what? But that's
Mhm.
where I like it, because in September, they made a change, and so now we don't have like the strict original writing of the Rule of 65, which I'll explain. It really, so much confusion.
Here we go.
Okay.
It's right now, we're
It's,
the same.
it's right now.
So welcome back, and we are talking about spousal support, and I have with me Susan Pintel. She's the owner of Pintel Family Law, and let me tell you something, no matter what, this information is huge for anybody that is getting a divorce or even thinking about it. I know right now a lot of people might hang tight a little bit before the holidays are over, but really it's so important to have some issue. We've got our lines open here too for everyone to get entered in to win a free 1-hour virtual consult with her. And our number here is 602-277-5369. I want to go with this. First of all, we've talked a little bit about longevity, and that's so important in a marriage because there's some that last and there's some that don't, and whatever. But also you wanted to talk a little bit about entitlement and what that means too.
Yeah, so I just talked about the first factor under eligibility because that's really where most people become eligible. Once you meet that standard, then you go on to entitlement, and you have 13 more factors, which I'm not going to go all into, but one of the factors is whether or not you've had a marriage of long duration. And I'm going to tell you what's really funny is that when I started 17 years ago, judges would consider a marriage of 25 years or more a marriage of long duration. And people now get divorced a lot faster, a lot
5 months.
sooner. Yeah,
No,
pretty,
okay.
I've had some like with
No, I know.
So the important thing for listeners to understand is that with the calculator and the new guidelines, you have a breakdown of anywhere from like literally 2 days to up to 2 years. Okay, the duration that the court can consider is giving you up to a year of spousal maintenance. Okay, if you have 2 years to a little bit less than 5 years, they'll consider giving up to 3 years of spousal maintenance. From 5 years to less than 10 years, they'll consider giving you 4 years of spousal maintenance. And if you got 10 years to 16 years, they'll consider giving you 5. And why is that important?
I got 5, yay! But I didnn't get it, and that's another whole thing we're going to talk about there.
No, and why is that important is because it gives you both the spouse that's paying ultimately and the spouse that's receiving. It really allows you to budget more intelligently because I think a lot of people, apart from being just overwhelmed and very emotional, it's not the best time to put your financial house in order, but this really helps you cement moving forward, how many months can I rely on to receive this if I receive it, right? Because if your spouse is employed by an employer, the income withholding order from the court garnishes their wages.
That's awesome.
Okay, you run into problems when people are self-employed and then you're like, where do I go collect the money? But it helps you at least understand and plan so that you can have some projection moving forward. I think also what's really interesting is that for those people who, and I'm gonna divide it into before September of 25 and then after September of 25. So from 2023 to October 31st, this is important to know. The rule of 65 meant that if you were 42 years old at the time that you started your case and you had a marriage of at least 16 years, that fell under the rule of 65, which meant that the court on a case-by-case basis could look at you and decide to give you a longer award. So your duration wasn't capped at those amounts that I just gave. Now, a lot of people were like, they didn't know that, so it's like, well, gee, I should only get divorced after my 42nd birthday. It's like, oh, I'm only 41 and a half. Damn it, I missed it. So, the judgment there was flawed because now you had people hanging into a marriage that they didn't want to stay in just so they could become 42 years of age and get a divorce. So what we did is essentially they looked at it, and now starting September of this year moving forward, if you have a marriage of at least 16 years, even if you're 39 years old, 40 years old, 27 years old, well, that's okay, that's getting crazy, but now you can do the rule of 65 that's been revised, and they will give you up to 12 years of spousal maintenance or 50% of the length of your marriage, whichever is greater. And I think that's given a lot of flexibility because especially in today's society, you may not hang in there, until you're 42, right? You may have gotten married a lot younger, and you still wouldn't qualify even if your marriage was 25 years in length because you got married as a little, right out of college. You still wouldn't qualify. So this has made an impact for a lot of my clients because now they're not obsessed with wait, I'm going to contact you, but I have to wait 9 months because I need to turn 42.
Well, that's why you have to have that consultation.
Yeah.
And you do a free 30-minute phone consult, and we do have our lines open here for everyone to get entered into a 1-hour virtual consult that she'll do with you. And our number here is 602-277-5369. And you should write this number down, because I know you might wait till like January, but it's okay. That does happen, but you know what? You might have questions now. Get yourself ready with all the things you need, and she likes that too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, look, if you're thinking about divorce, the holiday season is terrible. You don't want to ruin your children's last holiday and have them remember forever that this was the season that mom or dad came home and said, hi, it's over. But that, planning is really critical. I'm going to repeat this again. The best case outcomes I have are where I'm able to gather the information that I need from the client without having that emotional feeling of being overwhelmed and like, oh my God, I'm against the timeline, and I got to get this done. Please, I just got to get this filed. That's completely the wrong approach. You really need to know what your financial circumstances are, especially when you're talking about spousal maintenance, because I'm also going to bring up one more point that's really important in terms of how the rules were revised. Overtime, right? Because we're talking income. So you have your salary, you have your bonuses, you have your overtime, you have commissions, you have, investment accounts. And one of the mostly hotly contested points was, okay, do we include overtime or not? And it was crazy to, trying to figure out with the old language, like, okay, is that going to be counted or not? So note to self, everybody, the court's now going to look at the prior 3 years. So if you or your spouse were making overtime, and you have 3 years worth prior to the petition, then the court's able to look at that and include that as income moving forward. And that's really important, because a lot of people were all of a sudden like, okay, well, now I'm not going to work as much, or now I'm going to, I'm just going to become unemployed, and the games started. And so a lot of what the legislature has done is really try to eliminate a lot of that gamesmanship, so that people can just focus on the facts and have them really become consistent outcomes. Because too many people were like showing up with similar facts but getting really just weirdly different results, and that kind of lost the judicial system, in my opinion, a lot of credibilities. And as attorneys, it was harder to advise the client appropriately. So just note to self, 3 years prior to filing the petition, if you've been making overtime, that's going to count.
Well, it should, I think, and it really should. But the thing is that where else but here are you going to learn something like that? And I love that about the show, the information that you get here. There's a lot of questions when it comes to, divorce in general. Spousal maintenance is the number one thing that people, I think, talk about right away. And she's been doing this for 17 years, and she can, right now we do have our lines open for everyone to get entered into win a 1-hour virtual consult, so that's for free. And our number here is 602-277-5369. She works valley-wide. You can call her. Her phone number is 480-397-2261. You can also text her at 520-355-4483. What are your final words?
I think really put your financial house in order, get the attorney the information that we need in order to analyze what we need to look at, because again, you're going to look at not only eligibility, and then you're going to move on to entitlement, but you still have to present the case as to what amount you should be getting and what duration is appropriate to your case.
And the only way you're going to know, because you don't know that, is you got to have a consultation with the attorney.
Exactly.
And that's what it's all about.
Exactly.
That's why you need an attorney.
Precisely.
And I'm telling you now, don't even try and don't go do chat, because they're going to spit out something that may have some things right and a lot wrong.
Yes.
And you don't know. And I love the idea that you do these free 30-minute phone consultations to just start. But what she's saying is get your house in order. Get that paperwork all together so you know, and that's what she likes.
Yeah.
She likes to help that everybody does have that, because the more you give her, the better it is.
It's easier for me to help you.
Again, that phone number to call her is 480-397-2261. For texting, it's 520-355-4483.